All right, let's talk about the most amazing transit system ever built, the one that's running inside your body right now. It's this nonstop biological superhighway, and today we're giving you the blueprint to master every part of it. Let's jump right in. So here's our game plan. We're going to start with the river of life itself, the blood. Then we'll meet the tiny cellular soldiers floating inside it. After that, we're taking a trip to the central engine, the heart, and mapping out its incredible network of roads. And finally, we'll wrap up with the key facts that bring it all together.
First stop, the river of life. See, before we can even talk about the pump or the pipes, we've got to understand the fluid they're actually designed to move. This is square one.
Okay, this slide is absolutely key. It shows that these three fluids are really just different stages of one big continuous cycle. You've got blood, which stays inside the vessels. But when it's under pressure, some of the watery part, the plasma, leaks out. That becomes tissue fluid, and its job is to deliver all the good stuff directly to your cells. Now, most of that fluid seeps back into the blood, but whatever's left over gets picked up by a whole different network of vessels, and at that point we call it lymph. So let's lock this in, because this is a super common mistake. Lymph is contained inside its own special vessels. Tissue fluid is the liquid that's just hanging out between the cells. Get that difference straight and you'll avoid a classic trap.
Now, let's meet the solid army that's floating around in all that fluid. You basically have three types of specialists on the team. You've got your red blood cells. They are the oxygen delivery drivers. Then you have the white blood cells, which are like the immune system security guards. And finally, the platelets, the emergency repair crew that patches up any leaks. Just look at how different their structures and lifespans are. Each one is perfectly built for its job.
And that brings us to a classic question. Why on earth do mature red blood cells get rid of their nucleus? Well, it's actually a stroke of genius. By ditching the nucleus, they make more room for hemoglobin, which is the special protein that carries oxygen. It's a simple equation, really. More space means more oxygen per cell, which means a way more efficient delivery service for your entire body. Okay, so what happens if you get a cut? Your body kicks off this incredible four-step chain reaction called the clotting cascade. It's like a set of dominoes. First, the damaged tissue releases a special enzyme. That enzyme then activates a protein. Next, that newly activated protein takes a soluble substance called fibrinogen and turns it into these sticky, insoluble threads of fibrin. And finally, those threads form a kind of net that traps blood cells, forming a solid plug. A perfect, life-saving sequence every single time. All right, we've got our fluid and our cells. Now we need the engine that's going to push it all around. It's time to head inside the heart, the most powerful and reliable pump you will ever own. Let's do a quick tour. The two top chambers, the atria, they're like the receiving docks for blood coming back to the heart. The two bottom chambers, the ventricles, are way more muscular. They're the power pumps that send the blood rocketing out. And see these little flaps? Those are the valves. They are absolutely crucial. They're like one-way doors that make sure blood only ever flows forward. No backing up allowed.
And here's another one of those classic explain why questions. Why is the wall of the left ventricle so much thicker than all the others? Well, it's because it has the absolute toughest job in the whole system. The right ventricle, it only has to pump blood right next door, to the lungs. But the left ventricle has to pump blood with enough force to reach every single part of your body, from the top of your head to the tips of your toes. And all that pumping creates your heartbeat, which is really just a simple two-part rhythm. First up is systole. That's the squeeze. The ventricles contract, forcing blood out. That powerful squeeze slams the first set of valves shut, and that creates the lub sound. Then comes diastole. That's the relaxation. The chambers refill with blood, and the second set of valves snap shut, making that softer dup sound. Squeeze, relax, lub, dup. It's that simple.
And get this. This is the truly mind-blowing part. That entire, perfectly coordinated cycle, the squeeze, the relaxation, the lub, and the dupe, it's all triggered by the heart's own internal pacemaker, and the whole thing happens in less than a second. Yeah, just 0.85 seconds over and over and over again for your entire life. Just incredible. So we've covered the fluid and we've covered the engine. Now let's explore the network itself, the incredible system of roadways that carries blood to every last cell. So the system has two main types of highways. You've got arteries, which carry high-pressure blood away from the heart. Because the pressure is so high, they need really thick muscular walls to handle the force. On the other hand, you have veins, which carry low-pressure blood back to the heart. Since the pressure is lower, their walls can be thinner, but they have these genius little one-way pocket valves. They're especially important in your legs, making sure blood can flow up against gravity without just pooling at your ankles. Okay, exception alert, and this is a big one that trips a lot of people up. We usually think of arteries carrying oxygenated blood, right? Well, there's one huge exception, the pulmonary artery. It carries deoxygenated blood away from the heart and to the lungs. And you guessed it, the pulmonary vein does the opposite, carrying fresh oxygenated blood back. Just remember the simple rule. Arteries carry blood away. Veins carry it back towards the heart. This whole setup is called double circulation. And think about what that means. For just one full trip around the body, a single drop of blood has to pass through the heart twice. The first time it gets sent to the lungs to pick up oxygen. The second time, that newly oxygenated blood gets pumped out to the rest of the body. This two-circuit system is unbelievably efficient, and it means that oxygen-rich and oxygen-poor blood never, ever mix. So we've got the fluid, the pump, and the network. For our last section, let's meet the support crew and learn how we can check the vitals to see how well this amazing system is actually running. You know, the circulatory system doesn't work alone. Remember the lymphatic system? That's the body's essential drainage and cleanup crew. And then you have the spleen, which is a true multitasking marvel. Think of it as a recycling center, breaking down old, worn-out red blood cells. It's also a blood bank, holding on to a reserve supply just in case. And it's a barracks, producing white blood cells for your immune system. It does it all. And how do we check on the system's health? Well, we look at two main vital signs. Your pulse is that rhythmic wave you can feel in an artery every time the heart beats. It's basically the shock wave. Blood pressure, on the other hand, is the direct measurement of the constant force the blood is pushing against the artery walls. We measure it both during the squeeze, that's the higher number, and during the relaxation, that's the lower number. Okay, time for a quick-fire recap. Let's pull it all together with a final checklist. To really master this, you need to know your key definitions, especially lymph versus tissue fluid. You got to know the sequence of that clotting cascade cold, and you should be able to trace the path of blood through the heart and the double circulation system. If you got those down, you are in fantastic shape. So we'll leave you with this final thought. Your heart will beat more than 2.5 billion times in an average lifetime. A perfect, tireless rhythm happening inside you this very second, without you even thinking about it. Kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other incredible automatic systems are all working together right now just to keep you going? Thanks for joining us.